there, I'm nicodehaan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced and natural wild world.
To recover our natural health and regain our rights and freedoms, I'm Ellen DeHaan.
It's a beautiful day in Durango, Colorado, right now, about 28 degrees, getting a little cloudy, and I think we're expecting a little snow.
Yeah, a little
this
front
afternoon.
that's coming through. And
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 inches, something like that. So it'd be nice. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let me get the buttons going here. Yeah. Hit that subscribe button, hit the follow
It doesn't
button.
cost anything. Just hit subscribe and
We're on
it helps
YouTube
us.
and we're on Odysee. We also post on Facebook and LinkedIn. Now, if you hit the link below the show notes, you can maximize your nutrition with products from Mother Earth Labs. These are products that we use to supplement our diet. Take a look at all their products. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. So check that out. And if you have any comments or questions, you can put them in the show notes, or you can just get me directly by nicodehaan@me.com. What we do is look at mainstream news stories about anti-aging, natural health and history, climate, as well as our freedom, and we do our own analysis. All the topics for today's show are in the show notes listed below in the description.
And the links are in the show notes so that you can do your own research.
Yeah, for sure. And any questions or comments, please just hit me up. Over there. Let me get rid of this. Okay, so the first subject today, well, the whole subject today is should you
pretty much diet?
Yeah, be on a ketogenic diet.
And diet in the sense of what you actually eat.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of a regimen for calorie counting.
Yeah, this really doesn't involve anything like that. But it's something that we discovered about 2006, 2007, something like that. And,
well, we started with the kind of the primal diet.
Well, we'll talk about that because it's called a bunch of different things. It's called the low carb diet. It's called the Atkins diet was the first one we really kind of recognized and what he was doing. The thing that we discovered later on that the Atkins diet really didn't stress healthy food. It just stressed cutting out carbs. So that was the main difference.
Yeah, it wasn't about balance or getting. Oh, it's snowing.
I wish I could show you that. Okay, let's get going here. So the first article is Ketogenic Diet: A Detailed Beginner's Guide to Keto.
You know, when we started all this, what we did was we basically just cut out carbs, cut out grains.
That was the main thing, yeah. And that was the biggest difference for us.
Yeah, initially.
Yeah.
We did that for a while, probably a year or two.
Yeah.
You know, and we still ate the vegetables and the
potatoes once in a while.
Yeah.
Fries and things like that.
Yeah.
So the ketogenic diet involves.
Then we switched to them.
Yeah, consuming very low amounts of carbohydrates and replacing them with fat to help your bodies burn fat energy. The health benefits can include weight loss and lower your risk for certain diseases. There's some videos in here too, so you can check those out.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. It gives you the basics here in this article. Ketogenic diet is very low carb, high fat diet that shares many similarities with the Atkins and low carb diets. It involves drastically reducing carbohydrate intake and replacing it with fat. And this reduction in carbs puts your body into a metabolic state called ketosis.
So when this happens, your body becomes incredibly efficient at burning fat for energy. It also turns fat into ketones in the liver, which can supply your body energy for the brain, basically. So ketogenic diets can significantly reduce blood pressure levels, blood sugar levels, insulin levels, and this, along with the ketones, increased ketones, has some health benefits, which we'll go over. Okay. The interesting thing too is that when you consume a lot of carbohydrates, your body stores. The carbohydrates burn pretty fast, but and it also makes you hungry, which is kind of weird in a sense. So the more carbs,
your hunger.
Yeah, because the carbohydrates burn so fast that now you want more nutrition, and the excess that
or you want more energy.
Yeah, but the nutrition's really not in there.
Right.
So therefore, you're craving more energy again because the energy's not there, and the excess that your body produces in the carbs actually gets stored as fat, and If you're consuming carbs and you're burning carbs, then you cannot burn fat. So it's
Right,
kind of a
'cause
body's law of either you're burning fat or you're burning carbs. You cannot
can't
burn
do
both at
both.
the same time.
Now they just mentioned in this article one more thing, and that is it says there are several versions right under the right where you were
Oh,
before.
well, just
Yeah.
keep talking.
Okay. It says the standard, there's several versions of the ketogenic diet. And so, and each one has maybe a little difference in the actual foods you eat. The standard ketogenic diet is very low carb, moderate protein, and high fat. Generally 70% fat, 20% protein, and 10% carbs. And then
They have a cyclical ketogenic
Mhm.
diet. This diet involves a period of higher carbs, refeeds they call them, such as going 5 days on a ketogenic diet and 2 days on the high carb diet, this kind of thing.
And then the next one is targeted ketogenic diet, which allows you to add carbs during workouts.
Mhm. Yeah, and a lot of athletes do this
Mhm.
because their belief still is that when
Yes,
you
eat a lot of spaghetti before you run.
yeah, because you need that later on. And
Right.
if you're burning fat, it's been pretty much proven now. These high level athletes that do marathons and try,
Mm.
um,
Ironman.
yeah, Ironman type of
Yeah.
things.
Mhm.
Uh, if you're fat adapted, you really don't run out. Where in carbs, it was long known when I ran a marathon at about 20 miles, you run out of energy because your carbs
Kinda
are all gone.
crash.
Yeah, you kind of crash. And they found that now with the you have more fat that you're tuned into. And the reason you have that crash is because you can't tune into the fat.
Right, can't tap it.
You can't tap into it.
Mhm.
So, and that's what
Yeah.
happens.
The fourth type of diet they mentioned is the high protein ketogenic diet, similar to the standard, but it has more protein. So the ratio is often 60% fat, 35% protein, and 5% carbs.
Yeah, my personal opinion on it, standard ketogenic diet is great. And the targeted one, when you add carbs around workouts, it works pretty well for a lot of people. Not everybody,
Right.
but the other ones where you do it cyclically, the problem is there's a period of adaptation to a ketogenic diet.
Mhm.
And this involves also the low carb diet. This involves the Atkins type of diet. Your body doesn't automatically choose switch over to fat if you've been
Fat
burning
burning.
carb. If
Yeah.
you've been burning carbs for a long time, your body takes a long time to adapt to it. Sometimes 30 days. I've seen people go 90 days, 60 days, some even 6 months before they actually switch over.
We adapted pretty fast.
Yeah, we didn't have to. Well, we're pretty healthy. So the less healthier you are, I think,
Well,
the longer it takes.
That's
Now, during those periods, a lot of people snack because the standard is, of course, 3 days a week or 3 meals a day, and then snacks in between. Now, most of those things involve a lot of carbs. Snacks are usually a lot of carbs.
Yeah,
So
you
if you're
don't
gonna-
usually snack on carrot sticks. Yeah.
well, some people do.
Right,
But the point is, if you're going to go
Most
on this
people do.
diet and you're used to snacking, you need to start switching over to more fat and more protein types of snacks and not the carbs. And your body will adapt a little bit quicker. That's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, and it's more satisfying.
Well, yeah.
So
Well, the thing is, on this diet, we don't really get hungry. And that's kind of the
yeah, it's interesting.
key.
It was that was fascinating right at the beginning when we first went on the diet too. I was still taking some leftovers to work for lunch, but little by little, I guess in 2020 when we were locked down, I wasn't hungry at lunchtime. I just didn't eat lunch, and I realized I didn't need to eat lunch.
Right.
I used to think that like at 3:00 I had to have a little something because I would start to crash. So I'd have an apple or something like that.
Yeah, in the old days, I mean, we ate breakfast at 8:00 in the morning, or even 7:00 in the morning, and then by 11:00 you needed something.
Well, yeah,
And
you
then
were
you
ready
ate
for
lunch
lunch.
at 1 or 2 o'clock, and then again at 3:00 or 4:00.
Well, when you're working, it's like at noon. Your head goes, okay, time for lunch.
Yeah, and of course, that's the general thing that's happening around the office anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the standard
Yeah.
American diet.
Yeah.
3 meals a day plus snacks, and the same thing in the evening.
And you talk yourself into it. You say, "Oh, gee, I'm hungry," you know.
Well, yeah, because those carbs make you hungry.
And they burn up fast, so your energy. That's what they call a crash. You know,
and our ancestors probably never experienced that.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just go to the next article, which says foods to eat on a ketogenic diet.
Yeah. So the ketogenic diet's increasing popularity is largely due to its potential benefits for weight loss and blood sugar control.
Right. And it they do say that early evidence suggests a low carb, high fat diet may help treat certain cancers, Alzheimer's disease, and other health conditions, including, I would assume, obesity, blood pressure, depression.
I think all the metabolic type of syndromes.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Everything that has to do with food. And most of the things that we have today that are problems with people is a metabolic disease. We covered that kind of
directly related.
Yeah, we covered that in the last episode. Really.
You know, and it is directly related to the food that you put in your system.
Yeah, it has to be.
So what they do point out for 20 healthy foods to eat on a keto diet.
Okay, first one is seafood.
Seafood, and so it says fish and shellfish are very keto friendly, and salmon and other fish are not only nearly carb free but rich in B vitamins, potassium, and selenium. And but you know, there's well, it goes on. It talks a lot about what in the it does say, while shrimp and most crabs contain no carbs, oysters and octopus do. So
yeah, but
that
calamari.
Right. You can still eat these foods on the keto diet. It's important to carefully track these carbs so you stay within your range. I think the beauty for me of the keto diet is that I don't need to track anything. I'm not counting calories. I just choose the type of food that I eat. My body regulates the portions because I can't eat past a certain size portion.
Right.
And my body's satisfied and I'm not hungry.
Right.
And
so populations that are near the water are naturally going to eat more seafood.
Right.
It seems like a natural thing. I think the thing we have to watch out for is the high mercury content in some seafood.
Right.
I think the bottom.
And the other heavy metals probably.
Yeah, exactly. I think some of the things like the shellfish and stuff like that, they kind of leak that stuff out. They're the kind of cleansers.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they process it.
So there's two things to that. One, if it's a clean lake, then you're going to have the clean seafood. But if it's a lake that's polluted, like the Mississippi River, where there's a lot of factories,
the water source,
then you probably don't want to eat from that source.
Right.
So you have to be careful with seafood.
If it's outside of Fukushima, you probably don't want to eat the salmon.
That's true.
Okay, number 2, meat and poultry.
Yeah.
And those are staples of a keto diet. There's no carbs. It's so important. I mean, they keep saying time after time that the meat is where you get your B vitamins. And B vitamins are critical. B vitamins and folic acid are critical to growing, and especially for young women.
Yeah, and also you get your protein from there, right? I mean,
yeah,
we know that the animal protein is much more superior and much more complete. When we say complete, it has all the essential amino acids in it, where your vegetables have to be paired with other things like rice and beans. Even though beans are not that great for you, if you combine them with rice, you do get all those aminos. You may not get them in the high quality or high quantity, but they are there.
At least they're there.
And this is why our ancient cultures probably, when they ran out of the meat, probably went to the beans and the rice.
Survival foods,
exactly.
Right?
Survival foods.
The other thing is, what's I going to say?
It says here that one small study in older women find that a diet high in fatty meat lead to 8% higher levels of HDL, which they consider the good cholesterol.
Yeah, that whole cholesterol thing we've talked about, and we'll probably do a show on the whole thing
again
at some point.
Yeah.
But
let's go over some more.
And it says choose grass-fed meat if possible, because it has more omega-3 fats and conjugated linoleic acid than meat from grain-fed.
Yeah, you're going to find that your the quality of the food goes way up. Even some of the grain-fed meats are decent because a lot of the farmers will only feed them the grains in the last
to
couple
fatten
of
them up.
feedings to fatten them up. So that's not as bad, but the best is the grain-fed or grain-finished.
Grass-fed. Grass-fed.
Yeah, instead of grain.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and you know, one last thing then, and I was going to say before, our ancestors evolved to eat and digest and make use of the protein in the meat.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So it's highly digestible for us as humans.
Okay. Well, we had a lot of animals. Even when I was a kid, I could go in the woods and spot animals really frequently just by walking through. And we could see deer, we could see bear, we could see porcupines.
Note that you were in kind of northern Canada.
Yeah, I was in northern Canada. But, you know, if I go up there now and do that, I'm not going to see as much.
Yeah. You're right. Well, it's like when we drove through the Everglades and there was not one bird.
Yeah, we could see that one bird. Remember that one bird? We said, there's one.
It was a kingfisher, and it was just sitting all by itself up in there.
Yeah, when
they just weren't. The
and
birds
when we
were
went
gone.
to the Everglades in the 70s, 1975, 78, we used to go to the Everglades quite a bit, and there were just birds everywhere. So we've done a lot of damage to.
It's the invasive species, the snakes, the
poisons, the poisons that are in the air and the water, and
that have drained into the Everglades.
Sure.
Yeah.
And of course, they've drained a lot of the water. When you're building a house, you're going to drain the swamp.
That's the Intracoastal Waterway was created to channel and drain the swamps, because half of Florida, probably from Orlando south, was underwater. I mean, it was Everglades, you know, the river of grass.
Yep.
But
so eggs,
extremely healthy protein source.
And there's been a shortage of that going around.
Yeah, we're trying to find some eggs. All right, and then
it's important to eat the whole eggs rather than just the white.
Yeah, the whole thing. The yolk is, most of the nutrients are in the yolk.
Yeah, you can use both, but it's a beautiful food.
Yeah, it is. Okay, number 4 is cheese.
Lots of different kinds of cheeses listed here too. I love this. They got blue cheese, brie cheese, Camembert, cheddar, and man, there's
that's quite goat cheeses, of course. It seems like if you are lactose intolerant, then stick with the harder cheeses like like Swiss and cheddar, because they seem to be a little bit more digestible for the.
And you can buy goat cheeses, and
then now you can. I remember when I first became lactose intolerant, I was in my late 20s, I think, and there was like soy cheese, and when it melted, it was like plastic on your plate. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy because now you can get jack cheese and cheddar cheese and sharp cheddar cheese and mozzarella and Munster, and there's so many different kinds of goat cheeses.
Yeah. So they mentioned here plain Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. Now with the yogurt, you can't buy all these fancy yogurts with all the stuff in them.
Without their added, add your own, but you know, put your own stuff in it.
Yeah.
Without all the additives.
Yeah. Cottage cheese is great, of course. Then we have cream and half and half. I recommend cream rather than the half and half. And certainly no low-fat milk. And if you're going to drink the milk, drink the whole-fat milk. Yeah. That's what you want.
Now, you know, they mentioned the American Heart Association, and we discussed this a number of episodes ago about how Ansel Keys created this myth that that fat was bad, and the American Heart Association adopted the whole thing, and it went on for about 50 years at least, and some people and articles are still quoting the American Heart Association, but the idea that fat is not good for you it depends on the source of the fat and the type of fat, but generally speaking, the fats in dairy and the fats in meat are good for you.
Yeah, well, here it says some studies have suggested that high-fat dairy products may not be so closely related. May.
Yeah, right.
But it's pretty much debunked already.
And in fact, other studies have suggested a moderate intake of high-fat dairy may reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke.
Yeah. I think
So that's kind of interesting.
Then there's unsweetened plant-based milk.
Plant-based
We
milk.
don't use much of this. Once in a while we do. Whoops.
Well, the part of the problem is that soy in this country is mostly, almost all genetically modified. So drinking soy milk, you're drinking genetically modified soybeans.
Yeah.
You know, the almond milk. Well, what the heck, milk? They crush up a bunch of almonds. They call it milk.
Well, a lot of people are using it in like with coffee and stuff like that.
And
I
use it occasionally.
If you're doing it occasionally, it's not going to hurt you. But
and coconut milk.
Why not use nice heavy cream? I mean, that's
well, unless you're lactose intolerant, in which case, I use MCT oil instead of butter. Although I can eat a little butter, but it's all.
Then we have green leafy vegetables. We don't eat a lot of these. Once in a while, we'll have a little bit, but mostly when we're talking about the carbs, we're using them as condiments, more like that.
Yeah,
so we'll use things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it says in particular dark leafy greens like spinach, kale, and collard. Well, those are all the mustard seed plant.
Well, sure, that's true.
That's all one plant.
Yeah,
there's no difference. Interesting.
And they mentioned peppers. They mentioned summer squash, high fatty vegetables. This is mostly what we have is like avocados, olives, and things like that.
You don't think of olives and avocados as being vegetables. Actually, they're fruit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
but avocados and olives. But it says, well, technically both fruits are unique because they're high in fat.
Yeah.
They also contain fiber and are low in carbs.
Now, my recommendation on this kind of thing is that if you're going to go into this, do away with as much of the vegetables and stuff for a while. And
start out.
Yeah, and then introduce them a little bit later on.
And see how your body reacts. Because, sometimes I might eat a little bit of sweet potato on a Wednesday night when we go out to dinner, and it doesn't affect me. The regular mashed potatoes, I'm bloated for 2 days after I eat them, so I don't eat them. And
I usually get my steak with nothing else but the steak, just play it safe. Next article is the diet review, ketogenic diet for weight loss. Of course, what we always say is that when you go to a ketogenic diet or a low carb diet or the Atkins type of diet, what's going to happen is your body's going to normalize. So you're going to go back to your weight of what I weigh now is what I weighed in high school, 168 pounds. And I was much heavier when we started. I was about 180 to 185 when we started changing our diet, and slowly but surely I came down. I didn't care how long it took. And the slower the better for me.
And it took a long time to get to the weight in the first place. I mean,
that's true too.
Give yourself a break, folks. It took a while to gain the weight. Don't be in a big hurry to crash, lose the weight. Do it gradually.
I know weight gain and weight loss is an important subject right now, but what we're trying to convey to you is that this is a thing that brings you into health, into normalization. So
into balance, and
so
the metabolic balance.
It's just
a benefit.
Exactly.
It's a benefit.
Well said.
It says here, and this article again talks about it's a low carb, fat rich eating plan that's been used for centuries to treat specific medical conditions. In the 19th century, the ketogenic diet was used to help control diabetes. In 1920, it was introduced as an effective treatment for epilepsy in children when medication was ineffective. And the ketogenic diet has been tested and used for cancer, diabetes, polycystic ovary syndrome, and Alzheimer's disease.
Yes, so this has been used a long time, and a lot of people have.
Yeah, it's not a new fad.
Have been conflicting reasons not to go on this because it's dangerous and that type of thing. But we've been on it for so long. We know it's not dangerous.
It's not dangerous. No, it certainly hasn't been for us. And
so how it works? The premise of the ketogenic diet for weight loss is that you deprive the body of glucose, the main source of energy for all your cells in the body, which is obtained by eating
Carbohydrates.
Yeah. An alternative fuel called ketones is produced from the stored fat. And that's where the term ketogenic comes from. The brain demands the most glucose in a steady supply, but actually what happens is that the ketones convert to glucose and feed the brain. So
that's right.
There is really
so that's why you don't want to be eating all those carbs, because then you get flooded with the glucose, and it turns to fat.
Yeah, and then because the brain doesn't store glucose, it'll be stored.
It gets stored as fat.
Yeah, during fasting or when the very little carbohydrates are eaten, the body first pulls the stored glucose from the liver and temporarily breaks down the muscle to release glucose. So there's the dangerous part in there. And this is what people were talking about, the danger of doing that, because it'll take all that glucose from the liver. But what happens is the glucose is replaced by the ketones. So once the glucose is fully depleted, blood levels or a hormone called insulin are decreased. The body begins to use fat as its primary fuel. So it does take a little while to convert, but once you do convert, then all of a sudden, the biggest sign, I think, is that you don't feel hungry anymore. You go, oh, I don't have to eat. I can't eat.
You don't even think about it. You say, oh my gosh, look at that. It's 3 o'clock already. We didn't eat lunch. So what? You know.
So the body or the liver produces ketones bodies from the fat, which can be used in the absence of glucose. So you can't burn both. They talk about ketoacidosis.
Yeah, and that occurs if the kidneys begin to excrete ketone bodies along with body water in the urine, causing fluid-related weight loss. Ketoacidosis most often occurs in individuals with type 1 diabetes because they do not produce insulin. And that's the hormone that prevents the overproduction of ketones. Yeah, so it's rare, and there are
but people who are type 1 diabetes, they do have to watch that. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it explains that there's not one ketogenic diet. It's basically, it works a little bit differently for everybody. Some people can get into ketosis by eating maybe 30% carbs. We are usually at about 10% or less carbs, about 20% protein, so about 70% fat.
Right.
So we're eating a lot of fat.
We created the protein with the fat.
Yeah. Well, a general consensus is that if you're eating like a ribeye steak, it's probably 60% fat and 20, and the rest is protein. If you're eating fish, it's about 50-50, unless it's a very fatty fish. If you're eating vegetables, now you're talking about 70% carbs and maybe a 15 to 20% protein, but the protein is not a complete protein. Where in the meat and in the fish, you're getting always the complete protein. And that's the real benefit for eating some kind of animal-based product.
Right.
So even if it's not the best, it's still complete.
Right.
So
and that makes a difference. Yeah. And the research so far, the ketogenic has shown to produce beneficial metabolic changes in the short term, along with weight loss. Health parameters associated with carrying excess weight have improved, such as insulin resistance, high blood pressure, and elevated cholesterol and triglycerides. There's also growing interest in the issue of low carbohydrate diets, including the ketogenic diet for type 2 diabetes, of course, which is caused by obesity.
Right. Several theories exist as to why the ketogenic diet promotes weight loss. They have not been,
according to this article.
Yeah, it's not consistently shown in the research. Well, they haven't been doing a lot of research. Remember, most of the research is being funded by two particular groups: the food companies
and the pharmaceutical giants.
Yes, and they don't want us to be healthier.
Yeah,
this is what my personal opinion is.
Okay, so these are the benefits, and we have experienced pretty much, and we've just talked about some of them, but here they are on a list. A satiating effect with decreased food cravings due to the high fat content of the diet.
Right, a decreased in appetite stimulating hormones such as insulin and ghrelin. These are the two hormones that tell you to eat. and they're reduced when carbohydrates are reduced.
A direct hunger reducing role of the ketone bodies, which is the body's main fuel source.
Yeah, increased caloric expenditure due to the metabolic effects of converting fat and protein to glucose.
And promotion of fat loss versus lean body mass because of partly due to decreased insulin.
Yeah. And they talk about a few pitfalls here, and mainly,
well, the pitfalls we talked about last week too, and
Yeah.
it was, it's people.
Well,
it's hard for people to stick to it.
Well, here's following a high-fat diet may be challenging to maintain. Possible symptoms of extreme carbohydrate restrictions that may last days to weeks include hunger, fatigue, low mood, irritability, constipation, headaches, and brain fog.
Yeah, and
this is what stops a lot of people. You have to get through that period. For some people, it's relatively mild. For us, it wasn't that at all. But the less healthy you are, or the more weight you have, the more problems of this type. And you just have to get through this. It's kind of like exercise. The first time you do an exercise, if you've never done it, it doesn't feel that great.
And your boy, are you sore the next day?
Yeah, you could be sore the next day. So, you have to just say, I'm going to do this because I know it's going to make me healthier. And once you get through that period of whether it's just a couple of days or a few weeks or maybe 2 or 3 months, once you get through that, all that stuff goes away, and you'll never have that problem again unless you start acting like in a typical American diet again.
As you say, we were healthy. We were
pretty healthy. I mean,
we were relatively slim. We certainly weren't obese or anything.
No, I was 10, 15 pounds overweight from what I am. I was 20 pounds overweight from what I am now, but I was never considered obese.
Right.
The
like
first
you're 6
year,
feet tall, and you did a lot of moving. You did exercise. You did things. So, but
I feel like better than I've ever felt before. But so have you.
And physically we're as capable as we were in our 20s.
Yeah, in fact, I think a lot more capable in many ways. And this comes from eating the right way. This is the way our ancestors ate. So there's a bunch of unanswered questions in here that the article
more
goes over.
information you can take a look at.
And, take a look at it.
Yeah. All right.
So let's see.
8 benefits of fat loss beyond improved appearance. We as a culture are obsessed with appearance.
Yeah, I thought we'd just go over this because if you're going to go on this type of a diet, the lower carb diet, you're going to have this benefit of fat loss naturally, and you're going to feel better. But here are some of the things that the scientists say.
This just makes sense because when you're not carrying the extra weight, the stresses on your body, including your joints and your muscles, are quite different.
Yeah.
So there's a fellow by the name of Nick Tuminello, and he's a leader, quote unquote, according to this article. He's a leader and innovator in the field of human performance training, and he's talking about the health and performance benefits of losing fat and having a lean body.
So the number one thing is better sports performance, and I would say any kind of performance of doing anything.
Right.
You're going to be
even
better at walking
down the street.
You're going to be sitting better. You can improve your posture a lot easier when you don't have 20 extra pounds on you. So it's going to make a big difference to you. Number 2, they mention here
improved strength.
Improve strength, and that gives you performance, right?
Yeah, so less excess body weight you carry around, the more reps with a heavier weight you can lift.
Yeah. So if you want to replace that fat with muscles, it's going to be a lot easier to do.
Right.
So better cardio conditioning. So you're going to be able to go for instead of a half a mile walk and feeling bad, you're going to do a 2 or 3 mile walk and feel good.
Right.
You're going to feel a lot more energy. You're going to be able to do things for a longer period of time without being fatigued.
Yeah, and that's important.
Yeah.
Less joint pain. It's just logical when you're. Imagine your joints carrying around an armload of bricks, whatever.
All you have to do is take a backpack that you have sitting in the garage and fill it with a few bricks or 20 extra pounds and walk around for a while, and you're going to feel your joints are going to feel the stress unless you condition yourself to have to work up to that. Right?
Yeah, so losing the weight makes it gives you less pain.
Yeah, so it'd be a healthier weight. Extra body fat places more stress on the heart, puts you at greater risk for all kinds of health disease such as diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart attack. So maintaining a healthier weight can result in a body that looks good on the outside, but it also feels good and healthy on the inside.
And of course, the next one is less stress. Exercise is already a great way to relieve stress. And when you have the less weight, you can exercise more, you can move more,
Yeah.
and
And
that
that
all
leads-
helps reduce stress.
And that leads to less anxiety, less depression, improved brain function, and you get better sleep. So it's a win-win with every part of your life.
Right.
And this is what we
And
Really
and
fun.
he's even talking about 5 or 10 or 20 pounds.
yeah.
10 pounds is an entire size in clothing.
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
And the last article we have here is about
This
the
one was fascinating to me.
red dye number 3.
Red dye number 3 has now been banned from foods by the Food and Drug Administration. And and 35 years ago, the FDA barred red dye number 3 from cosmetics because a lot of studies had been done, and it turned out that when they gave rats high doses of red dye number 3, they got cancer. And so that was 35 years ago, 35 years ago. But they continued to use it in food. Now-
It makes no sense at all, right?
Well, here's the thing. The argument is, well, it was very high doses, and those doses you don't get those doses when you eat the food, and it's much lower doses and blah, blah, blah. But nobody took into account the cumulative effects. I mean, if the children are eating a bunch of food that has the red dye number 3 in it, yeah, they're not taking the dosages that the rats took, but by the same token, eating it for 10 years.
Well, it's not only that. It was there's been a lot of speculation on the doses of things, and it used to be that if you had a small dose of something, it's not going to hurt you as much, and that kind of makes common sense. But now they've figured out that if you have a higher dose of that particular thing that's irritating you, your body is alerted and the body can fight it. But if you get a very, very low dose, you may not get those signals. And it sneaks in. Exactly. So this is what's happened with the red dye number 3. They've realized that a very low dose is much worse because now your body's not alerted to the fact that a substance in there is not supposed to be there, and it doesn't fight it off. And this
doesn't process it, doesn't excrete it.
And this goes along with all the food. We've always said on our show that look for products that have 1 or 2 or 3 ingredients. Even the FDA says that if it's over 5 ingredients, don't eat it because cannot be good for you. It should look like a piece of food. That's why a pork chop looks like a pork chop, and whatever.
Yeah.
But when you have it in the package and it's all ground up with other things,
you don't know what's in it.
You don't know what's in it. And even when you do know what's in it, you say, well, it's got some of this good stuff in it. But the overriding thing is those small little things that are on the bottom of the list may be the ones that are really hurting you the most.
Well, and now this is interesting. I mean, they banned it. Okay, fine. Now, food manufacturers have until January of 2027. That's still 2 years away to remove the dye from their products. And makers of ingested drugs have until January of 2028 to remove the red dye from their drugs.
The good thing is we can remove it ourselves just by not eating it.
Well, yeah, that's, so it was, now I went down the article a little bit, and it says red 3 is banned for food use in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, except in certain kinds of cherries. The dye will be banned in California, good old California, starting in January 2027. And lawmakers in Tennessee, Arkansas, and Indiana have filed proposals to limit certain dyes, particularly from foods offered in public schools.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a while before this actually gets out of the food.
Yeah.
I remember in
Here it says the International Association of Color Manufacturers defends the dye, saying that is safe in levels typically consumed by humans. But I think the new research is coming out that this is not the case. The smaller, the worse it can be, for sure.
But this reminded me of watching the movie when Peggy Sue got married. And that movie came out quite a number of years ago.
Yeah.
It's I don't remember what year, but it's been a while. And so at this point, there's one scene in which Peggy Sue's talking to her younger sister, Nancy, and they're eating M&Ms. And Peggy Sue says, "Oh, don't eat the red ones. They're not good for you." And that was before, that was the time then they were banning it from lipsticks and cosmetics.
Yeah, so if it's just touching your lips, that's bad. But if you're putting it in your stomach, I guess they figured the stomach acid is going to take care of it.
Oh my.
Yeah. Well, you have to go through this journey yourself. Everybody has to make up their own mind that you're going to do this. There are some indications that you won't feel good for a particular period of time, whether that's a few days or a few months. But the journey is worth it. It's just like the exercise. There's going to be a period where you're not feeling good, and you just have to know that you're going to get past that.
Yeah, well, some friends of ours are limiting their carbs at the moment, and they've both lost quite a bit of weight.
Yep.
And they both say they feel much better. And so we don't go around proselytizing about this stuff. We don't go around telling people stop eating that stuff, it's poison or anything like that. But when people have asked us questions, we've explained what we do. And
yeah, if they want advice, we're going to give it to them. But
not advice so much as just examples of how it's worked for us.
Yeah.
We're not doctors, we're not health professionals, but we do our homework. And
I was in the health business as far as the physical activity.
Yeah, physical activity. Right.
And I've been teaching jiu-jitsu ever since I've been here in Durango. And that's a high-level sport. You want to participate in it with your students. And that's what I do. And to do that, I have to be in really good condition. And the diet is what spearheads that whole thing. It's not just the working out and the other things that I do, but it's the number one thing that you have to do if you want to keep at a higher level of any kind of activity, or if you don't want problems later in life.
Oh, if you want to be able to get up from the chair and walk around your house and not be aches and pains. We don't get out of bed in the morning with any aches and pains. No. We're not restricted in what we can do. And we just feel good all the time.
Yeah, and fat has been getting a bad rap for the last 50 years. And when you think of it, oils and things, we use that to lubricate all our mechanical devices, right?
Yeah, petroleum products.
Well, yeah, these petroleum products. We're not saying we need petroleum products, but as far as the correlation is very similar. If we have a lot of fat in our bodies just work a lot better, have a lot less pain. There's a lot less inflammation because that's the role of fat.
I mean, I have arthritis in my fingers. I can't bend my fingers past that angle, but I have no pain.
Yeah.
And that's priceless.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the show.
That is the show.
Yeah, it is the show. Well, I hope you learned something. Anyway, read those articles, check it out, make up your own mind. But if you want to get healthy, you're going to have to switch out something you're doing if you're not healthy. So I think this is a good start.
Food for thought, as it were.
Thanks a lot for sticking around.
Be well.
Bye-bye now.